Hi everyone, you're watching Tamit Saleh's Tennis Forum. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but I'm sure you can understand with the situation around the world right now, things are a little hectic. Here in the UK, there's been more stricter actions regarding the coronavirus. We've passed over 200 deaths, and what's the scary thing is the fact that look, we all know Italy is probably the worst affected country in terms of death right now, and the UK seems to be following a very similar trajectory, which is quite scary. Recently, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has come out and closed down all pubs, all restaurants, all mass gatherings. Look, you guys are all aware of the situation. I don't need to go into it too much, but things are looking very, very scary right now. But I think it's also quite important for us to be strong, not to spread the fear around, and just try have a little bit of a positive outlook. I know it's tough right now, but yeah, as long as we're all careful, very hygienic, washing our hands, etc., then hopefully this will come to pass soon. But right now, I'm sure you guys are feeling the exact same way, but the end doesn't seem like it's anywhere in sight. I'm hearing things like it's going to peak around May, June, July. That's going to be the worst of the effects of the coronavirus. Unfortunately, it does seem like our beloved sport, tennis, won't be coming back anytime soon. It's not just tennis. We've seen it with football. We've seen it with pretty much every sport around the world. Everything has been cancelled. And for me, I'm a big sports fan. It's not just tennis. I follow football. I follow Formula One. I follow cricket. I follow everything. And right now, there is absolutely nothing on. Look, I know sport isn't our priority right now. Health comes before anything, and that is the main focus. And if cancelling all sorts of sports is the way to delay this spread, then by all means it's the best thing to do. But at the same time, we all have our hobbies, and yeah, let's hope everything comes back to normal very soon. My last video, I spoke about Indian Wells getting cancelled. That seems like a lifetime ago. Since that time, the ATP came out and suspended everything for 6 weeks, and recently it's been pushed even longer now, up to about June the 7th. So that puts the French Open completely gone. We're going to come to that. It's been rescheduled. There seems to be a bit of drama surrounding that reschedule of the French Open as well. Then yeah, no tennis at all until July, August probably. And to be honest, the way this virus is spreading, I do not see tennis even starting that soon, unfortunately, unless they play behind closed doors. If you haven't already, then please do subscribe. This is the tennis channel to be at. Unfortunately, not much tennis right now, but I will be doing videos. And one video I want to do next is sort of like a Q&A type of video. So I want you to drop as many questions or anything like that. It doesn't need to be just tennis related. It can be about anything. It can be personal questions, just so you can get to know a little bit about me, and hopefully that will be next week's video. For this video, I want to talk about the rankings being frozen, what it means for Djokovic in his pursuit for that record from Roger Federer, the French Open being moved to September, October, if that's a good idea or not, and just generally all talk about the coronavirus and effect it is having on our sport. So without further ado, let's roll the intro. So as you know, the tennis season has been suspended until the 7th of June 2020. So anything after that, it is currently scheduled to go on as normal. However, I see that date being pushed back and pushed back. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can resume as soon as possible. But that is now the current date. Of course, the French Open looked like it was completely cancelled. And to be honest, Wimbledon is in the same boat as well. However, a few days ago, the French Open has announced it has moved its dates to September, October, and is scheduled to begin exactly after a week after the conclusion of the US Open. What seems to be quite evident from this is that the French Open organizers, they didn't seem to discuss it with the other slams or the ATP or anything. It seems to have been a very like a decision they've made on their own without discussing anyone, which has ruffled a few feathers. However, that is the case now. We'll start off with that. A lot of questions have been asked about the French Open. One question asked by Kevin Chabla He said that, do you think the French Open will ultimately be cancelled, even though they have postponed it? The fact that there's no clay tournaments leading up to it makes it really hard for players to transition from the hard courts to the clay courts. Not to mention the fact that there are several tournaments severely damaged because of this reschedulement, like the Laver Cup. Look, it's not just the Laver Cup that will be affected. I reckon the Asian swing, Shanghai, Paris Masters will be affected as well. But personally, I think the French Open will go ahead. I've heard people saying that playing on the clay in September, October-ish isn't the greatest of ideas. But yeah, I mean, they have a roof now. I don't know if that will help things or not. It is going to be colder. However, it's sort of like autumn-ish time. But yeah, personally, my opinion is I do not want it to be cancelled. I'd rather this entire year, even if there's nothing else, at least all 4 slams to be played. That is my general desires. However, it does all depend on how this pandemic goes to see if the rest of the season will be cancelled or not. Jeremy Jebanisan, sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, he's also said that, do you see a situation where players may have to pick between the US Open, French Open and Laver Cup? Personally, I don't think the Laver Cup is going to be a glamorous event compared to a Grand Slam. Like, I know we all love the Laver Cup and that, but essentially it is just like an exhibition. So putting the Laver Cup against the French Open or the US Open or any slams, I don't think it can compete very well. I reckon the Laver Cup will reschedule. And I think they've come out and said that they're not going to hold the tournament in those dates, which is fair because you're not going to get the players or the top players playing in the Laver Cup anyway. Personally, picking between US Open and French Open, this one's a bit of a tricky one. If you don't go deep in the US Open, then I see no reason to not play the French Open. It's only if you end up reaching the final of the US Open, then you only get a week in between. But personally, from history, I remember when the French Open used to finish, and then you'd have Queen's straight away, or Halle, and then a week break and Wimbledon. I know now they give an extra week in between, but that is how it used to be. So it's not really too much different from that. I think a week is long enough, and I think the transition from clay to grass is a bigger transition than from hard courts to clay courts. So I don't think players will be missing one for the other unless they're injured or anything like that. I think it's going to be tough for Rafa now. So I know the rankings are frozen, which we're going to get to in a little bit. However, as you know, Rafa is the defending US Open and the French Open champion from last year. So essentially in that month or 5 weeks, he's going to be defending 4,000 ranking points. And if you compare that to his closest rival, Novak Djokovic, who's only defending 720 and then 180 at the US Open, so it's like, 900 points? That could be a massive, massive swing if Rafa doesn't defend at least one of those titles. I think the French Open being in October is something different. Look, we know Rafa will always go into a French Open as the big favourite. He's won it there 12 times. However, playing it in October may cause the surface to change a little bit. Maybe the ball will play differently. So that is something that, is out of the norm. So maybe it will be a bit more difficult for Rafa to play or to win as convincingly at the French Open. Vamsi Ganesh has said that how about the idea of cancelling the World Tour finals completely and then having the French Open play at that time of year. Now, personally, you can't do that. Of course, European winter time, French Open being an outdoor tournament is different to playing in the O2, which is indoors. So yeah, you can't play the French Open in December at all, in my opinion. However, the World Tour finals right now, I mean, it is looking like all other tournaments may be cancelled and just playing the Grand Slams this year. Does that then give you a fair idea of a top 8 and having the World Tour finals? Personally, I'd leave it in if by that time the coronavirus, and I'm hoping at least by November, December, it's completely cleared up. But yeah, I mean, my opinion is that you can play all 4 slams and then the top 8 play the World Tour finals. But that's something I'd like to hear from you guys, what you think about that situation. Thank you once again, by the way, for leaving these great comments. I do love hearing your thoughts, and I love the fact that you engage with it, and it's really good for me to answer some of your questions. Now, moving on to the fact that the rankings have been frozen. So as you know, before I went to it, now it's the same rankings. Novak Djokovic first place on 10,220. Rafa Nadal in second place on 9,850. Followed by Thiem, Federer, Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev and Berrettini making up that top 8. One thing, Federer, who's gone into surgery, couldn't have timed it better really. he was gonna miss all these tournaments anyway. Now I'm sure he's not happy about this whole pandemic happening, but yeah, it's worked out pretty well for him. So the ranking will remain frozen now. A question from you guys, Polius. Sorry, I cannot pronounce your surname. Forgive me. Is Novak Djokovic going to overtake Rogers' all-time record week at number one, even while the rankings are frozen until June? No, that's not the case. So Novak Djokovic is now on 281 weeks at number one. That is not going to increase until the tour starts again. So any weeks now, it's not gonna go in helping Novak. Had it remained, a normal calendar season, he was looking at October the 5th to overtake Rogers 310 weeks at number one. That's obviously delayed now, and he'll need to get back to it. I think Novak Djokovic has missed out on a big opportunity with this virus coming on. He was in very good form, not defending many points at all, and it did seem like he was on his way very comfortably to breaking Rogers' record. It depends now on the form when the tour starts again. So if he's carrying on like normal, it won't be an issue. However, if his form dips in the next 6 months or so, it's always tough when everyone's off and then having to see how he all copes again. So yeah, let's see how that affects things. But I reckon Novak's missed out on a great opportunity there. Pavle Nikasevich has come out and said, would you count weeks at number one while the rankings are frozen? To me, it makes no sense to not count them when we're counting inactive weeks between tournaments during a regular season. Now, I can see why you've made that point. But for me personally, if there's nothing happening, then yeah, I suppose it's fair. I know it negates the whole ruling of the 52-week system. However, I can't really argue with it. If there's nothing happening, there's no opportunity for anyone to overtake Novak. There's no opportunity for anyone to overtake anyone or defend their points. That's the only way players would lose their rankings. It doesn't seem very fair. So, it's not come out yet exactly when the points will drop off. Whether if the season starts again week by week, Indian Wells, Miami points will drop off. I don't think it's going to be like that. I reckon any tournament missed in 2020, the rankings from 2019 will just carry over to 2021. So, for instance, Australian Open, which was played this year, fine. That's gonna just play like normal next year. However, Indian Wells, the points will only drop off at Indian Wells 2021, etc. Let me know what you think, if you think it's fair or not. And finally, last question I'll answer is by Sumna Lennon, a very regular commenter and friend of the channel. He said, when do you think tennis will be played at its earliest? So now tennis is scheduled to begin again during the grass tournaments. I think that's way too early. Look, we're all hoping that this virus flatlines and goes down very soon. We're all waiting for a virus, and hopefully that comes out as soon as possible. However, the way it's going and looking at the predictions, I don't see tennis being played until probably August at the earliest. The alternative is to play behind closed doors. However, tennis is, for me, I think it's not similar to football in that sense. A lot of the revenue comes through ticket sales and so forth. So what will they do with prize money, etc.? I don't know. It's a tough one. But yeah, I don't see any tennis until about August, which is tough. As tennis lovers, we all love watching it, but health does come first. So yeah, I reckon they'll probably have to push Wimbledon back as well. It might be a case where it's Wimbledon, then a week break, US Open, a week break, French Open, and that's the season done essentially. So maybe once tennis does begin, we'll have a lot of tennis going on. So I'm really looking forward to everything beginning again. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. But yeah, as I said earlier on in the video, please do leave your comments for the next video. I don't know when that will be released, but it will be released soon, hopefully. General Q&As, doesn't need to be just about tennis, personal questions as well, get to know me a little bit, and yeah, just your thoughts on all the points I've mentioned, on all the tennis as well. It's been great seeing you guys again. Please do subscribe if you're new to the channel, and also drop a thumbs up. I've asked for 100 thumbs up and you've always achieved it. So yeah, let's see if we can have that. And I hope you guys remain safe, keep your family safe, and be considerate for everyone. I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.